Everyone knows will never be another Freddie Mercury. As the lead singer of Queen, he was unmistakable, sublime, beloved. After he died aged 45 in 1991, many singers have tried to emulate him, and in recent years, for a few of them, that's been with the blessing of Queen's members. Rami Malek, for example, stars in the Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody, due for release in November. Queen guitarist Brian May told Rolling Stone, "We have our star. We have Rami Malek as our Freddie, who I think will be incredible." And 6 years ago, when Brian May and Roger Taylor created an official Queen tribute band, the Queen Extravaganza, in 2012, they chose Marc Martel, and he was part of that band for 5 years. Now Martel has his own Freddie show called The Ultimate Queen Celebration, playing Auckland August 24 at the ASB Theatre. To find out about the show and Marc Martel's life, he's with me from Nashville. Marc, hello.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you, Wallace.
I thought, actually, being from Nashville, because we've interviewed a couple of singers from Nashville, it'd be more the country route that you'd take.
You would think so. I mean, that definitely is the biggest reputation Nashville but it is, it's not just country music city. It's just plain old music city. Yeah. So they've got all sorts of music here.
Now, Marc, your uncanny Freddiness, if you like, was discovered after you recorded yourself singing Queen's Somebody to Love in your bedroom and uploaded to YouTube. I've just been online and watched your version of Somebody to Love, and it is unbelievable. In fact, I closed my eyes and tried to distinguish between Freddie Mercury and you. Almost impossible. But what happened? What happened next?
What happened next? Well, that video was actually an audition for the band that I was auditioning for, the Queen Extravaganza, which was created by Roger Taylor and Brian May. And my life kind of took a left turn there. I was in my own band at the time. We'd been traveling actually all over the world for 15 years, professionally, full time. And I'd always gotten comparisons to Freddie Mercury, and I'd kind of gotten to the point where I had accepted the fact that this was something I was going to have for the rest of my life. Even if I'm singing my own music and I'm trying not to sound like Freddie, people still tell me I sound like Freddie. So when this opportunity came about to audition for this official tribute band of Queen, I tried out for it, and the video immediately went viral, which kind of blew my mind because it kind of confirmed to me that it was kind of a rare thing to sound like Freddie, which I actually didn't believe before that happened. I thought there must be, it's a big world, there must be lots of people who sound like him. And apparently not. And so my life kind of went crazy there for a couple of months. I was on, you may be familiar with the Ellen DeGeneres show. She had me on her show. Lots of press and media, especially in Canada and the USA. It was quite hairy there for a while. And ever since, I've been doing a lot of Queen music professionally.
It's just uncanny, and we'll try and play a bit of that Somebody to Love piece. But you've even got the micro intonations down. You can do a bit if you like.
Yeah, sure. Well,
here we go.
Here we go. Somebody to love. How's that?
Wow.
Yeah, well, I think part of it comes from the fact that I learned how to sing from listening to other singers, like, for example, George Michael I was into when I was younger in the 80s, and other sort of tenor voices that I felt like I could, imitate quite well. And so I got used to listening to, like you say, the microscopic intonations and pronunciations. And so it's just something I've always been I've had a bent for, and for when it comes to Freddie's voice, it's just it's easier because it's just completely natural.
Because I read somewhere that when you did that Somebody to Love video, you hadn't actually heard of Queen, and I found that a bit hard to believe. I mean, I know you're not British, but really, is that really true?
Oh, that's an exaggeration. I was made aware of Queen from the movie Wayne's World. I think that is the first time I ever heard Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was in my late teens at the time, I think. But even then, it didn't click with me that guy singing was similar to me. I guess I was still quite young, and my voice hadn't matured completely yet. And it wasn't until the early 2000s when I started to get some really just constant comparisons, over and over again. It would become a joke when I would do shows with my band. How many people are going to compare me to Freddie tonight? And once I started getting a lot of comparisons, I started to delve into Queen's, I hits repertoire, and because I wanted to figure out who this person was who was making me sound so unoriginal, So I thought maybe I had something to learn from that person, and sure enough, I did.
Because Mark, you're a huge music fan, and gospel was more your thing, and we'll come to why soon. But you didn't really get into rock music growing up in Canada until the 90s. So I guess that might explain that.
Maybe, there may have been a certain level of sheltering in the home, although my parents they pretty much let us listen to whatever we wanted, although we did have a large contingent of gospel music in the mix, and so that probably took up some space that other things didn't have the opportunity to take up. And my brother actually was more the rebel in the family, and had a real taste for rock really early on, and it always kind of scared me a little bit because I was, I liked my safe music and all that stuff, but it wasn't until I got into high school where I really started to open myself up to rock and roll and realize, hey man, this is some good stuff here. So yeah, better late than never.
And now you've been described as, to quote, the greatest Freddie Mercury voice on the planet. Been on shows like Ellen DeGeneres and such like. How do you wear that honor, Mark?
It is a tricky thing. Like I said, it took me a while to sort of come to terms with it, and I really have accepted that this is just something that's going to be, I think, present for the rest of my life, or as long as Freddie Mercury is in the zeitgeist, which I'm sure is going to be much longer than I'm alive. So it's really an honor. If you're going to be compared to someone, it may as well be, if I had to pick someone to be compared to, it probably would be the greatest entertainer of all time. So I'm quite okay with it. Walking that fine balance of maintaining my identity as I'm doing Queen. There are some boundaries that I will not cross. Like I will never dress up or wear the mustache or even do the half microphone stand thing. That's not my thing. I mean,
come on. You must. The half microphone thing. I went back and watched Live Aid just in honor of this interview, and the half microphone thing, that was Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the reason why you haven't seen anyone else do it, because he completely owned that thing. And you know what? The half microphone is actually fun. It's really fun to have something in your hands while you're singing, but the fact that he owned that so completely, you just can't do it. You can't get away with it.
So you were part of the Queen extravaganza with Brian May and Roger Taylor for 5 years, handpicked by them. Tell us about that time, Mark.
Really special. I remember the first time I got to meet Roger. Roger was very heavily involved with that band from the very beginning, and still is. And officially, I'm still a part of it. I just kind of flip-flop between whatever projects are available to me in my schedule. But I remember the surrealness of performing Roger's music for him with a voice of someone he loved quite dearly and performed with for 20 years, and at the same time, it's hard to be present in that moment because I try to be empathetic at the same time and sort of put myself in his shoes. How would that feel like? It's such a bizarre thing, and he likes to use the word uncanny for me, and the word uncanny does evoke this kind of strangeness. It's so much the same that it's weird, and I get that, and it must be a really strange thing for them, and it's like I said, it's a huge honor.
What were they like to perform with? What was Brian May like to perform with? Because I'm a guitar fan, and he is, when it comes to guitar, he is just such a rock god. He lays it down like very few guitarists can do. What's it like to be on stage with Brian May?
Well, I haven't been on stage with Brian all but once, actually, and that was our first performance together on American Idol in 2012. But he is such a kind person. When we were in our rehearsals together, he actually offered his red special guitar for me to hold and play for a bit. And I'm like, what are you doing? How can you be that generous with a rock relic? Like this thing is literally irreplaceable. But he's just like, yeah, hey, have a go at it. I made this with my dad when I was a teenager. I'm like, I know this. Everybody knows this story.
Hang on, does he just have that one guitar?
He has the one that he built, and he has a few replicas that he also plays on stage.
My gosh. Did you ever get the feeling that you were there so they could, feel Freddie's music again live, the presence? Because, what a hole that must have been, as you alluded to. It must have been at once a comfort to them, but on the other hand, very strange, Mark.
Yeah. Absolutely, and you got it right. I think Freddie left a bigger hole than a lot of people who have passed on, and I've thought about that a lot, and I've spoken to a couple of people who have studied his life or knew him, and it's almost like people regarded him as their little brother, and there's just this feeling of wanting to make sure Freddie was okay, and he just had this vibrant passion for life. Obviously, we know that he loved to have fun and go out as much as possible and stay up until the sun came up, and he had just this zeal for living and getting everything out of it as possible. And when someone like that leaves, it leaves a big sucking hole. And I think maybe part of what happened when I came along is that people sort of realized that again and remembered that they missed that.
The extravaganza is over now, but there seem to be differing reports out there on the internet that you've gone. Some say you'll be back. What's the truth there, Mark?
No, the truth is the extravaganza is still alive and well. They are touring with another lead singer. While I am, our schedule, we just couldn't have our schedules line up this year, unfortunately, and I'm kind of sad that it didn't work out. But they have to keep going, even though I couldn't make it work this year. They will be touring in the UK and North America this year, unfortunately without me, but they've got a great guy by the name of Illyrio Neto filling in for me, who's from the Brazilian cast of the We Will Rock You musical. So he knows the music real well, really great performer. But as I say, I'm still part of the roster, and I'm just taking work as it comes.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on, you've got your own show now, and you've been doing this show, The Ultimate Queen Celebration, since 2017. That's what you're bringing to New Zealand. Tell us about the show, Mark.
Well, the show is a little bit different. We are bringing mostly a greatest hits show to New Zealand, and it's a really high energy, as you'd expect Queen to be. You can't just stand there or sit there and sing Queen, that's for sure. You got to move. And I honestly, and I don't say this to toot our own horn, but I don't think I've ever performed a Queen show where there wasn't multiple standing ovations at the end. The music just lends itself. It just begs for more, and it's a lot of fun. The difference that I can take with this band, I can take a few liberties because I have, I'm blessed to have this voice. I have taken a couple of liberties in the show where I do a song that is not necessarily a Queen song, not a song maybe that they've ever performed, but a song that I wished that Freddie could have gotten around to recording at some point in his life. And so I offer that little extra tidbit as a bonus during the show, just to explore, a little bit outside of the box.
You've also got, just watching the Somebody to Love video, an uncanny resemblance to Freddie Mercury, of course. But you say that you don't try and sort of recreate Freddie Mercury as himself.
That's right. It's really important for me as an artist. I'm a songwriter. I don't really know any songwriters who grow up as a ultimate goal to be a tribute artist, to be, real honest with you. So, whenever I do Queen's music, I try to make it obvious that I'm injecting, my own passion into this music instead of completely borrowing and losing my identity in this person that I'm sort of representing. And so that's a fine line for me to walk. It's something that's grown, that I've been able to sort of hone over the last 5 or 6 years performing this music. And, I've gotten to the point where I know at least the songs that we perform regularly like the back of my hand. And so I'm able to take certain liberties, maybe even with the melodies, but in a way that I feel like Freddie would approve, and you just kind of get that after it's the whole 10,000 hours thing. You put in the time, and you're able to sort of fake it.
And how much time did it take? What did it take to get those, as you mentioned, those micro phrases, those micro intonations? Because if that song, "Somebody to Love," is anything to go by, your version, I mean, you've absolutely nailed every single tiny phrase. And then you look at the whole catalogue. I mean, what sort of hours and training would have had to have gone into it?
Well, at the very first, when the Queen Extravaganza began, I only knew a few of Queen's hits, honestly. Like, I was kind of an outside greatest hits fan. I didn't know their deeper cuts or anything like that. And so I spent, I was on tour with my other band at the time. And what I would do during the time when we were setting up our lights and instruments every day on tour, I would have Queen's music in my ears, and I'd learn one song every day. I just play it like 20 times over and over, on my phone or whatever, and took the time. It actually didn't take that long. It was just took a little discipline. And what you see in my audition where I'm singing "Somebody to Love," I actually didn't know that song that well at the time. There's actually a couple little lines that I actually sang wrong, I believe, if you really compare Freddie and I's performance of it. But I guess just having the voice really allows for people to kind of let down their guard and just kind of suspend their disbelief.
Mark, are there a couple of personal favourites that you like to perform, and that might give us an idea of a couple of tracks to play as well on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my most recent, my new favorite actually, is "You Take My Breath Away," which is kind of a deeper cut, not a very well-known song. Just a really pretty love song by Freddie, where it's all just him on the piano, and there's a guitar solo, and obviously the Queen background vocals. But it's one of those songs that I can't believe is not more known than it is, and so it's going to be a song that we add to our set list for our New Zealand tour. I'm really excited to start playing that one. I love all the big hits. Obviously, you can't get away from Bo Rap and Under Pressure and all that stuff. And
And you do those?
I like the big ones too. Absolutely, you gotta play those.
I suppose because I was a major Queen fan, I suppose mine, Mark, was, and not so much for Freddie's voice, but it was just the deep, dark, massive Brian May riff. I want it all. I want it all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you'll get your wish. We play that one too.
Very, very cool. I'm with Marc Martel, who's bringing his own Freddie show, the Ultimate Queen Celebration, to Auckland and Christchurch. But Mark, you grew up in Montreal, son of a pianist and choir director mother who played in your father's church, and church music is and was a great grounding for you and many other singers.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. When you watch shows like Idol or The Voice, you can bet that at least half of the people on those shows grew up singing in the church. It's such a beautiful breeding ground for music. Music's always been a huge part of Christianity, and so I'm real thankful for that environment growing up.
And you still have your own band, which is, I think, is a Christian rock band. Is that right?
Down here is on a indefinite hiatus, and so we're kind of waiting for that big, huge demand for a reunion tour.
Now, Mark, there's this biopic out at the end of the year, Bohemian Rhapsody, starring Rami Malek, and I read that the voice in the film is a combination of Malek and you. Is that right?
That is correct. They asked me to be a part of the singing aspects of the movie, and I gladly obliged, and it was one of the most memorable experiences of my life, kind of peeking behind the curtains of how movies are made, the music world and the movie world are very different, and it was a huge blast being able to record some vocals for that.
How did it come about?
Well, they reached out to me in late 2016 and asked if I'd be interested in lending my voice to certain scenes in the movie. And, it really wasn't more complicated than that. And then a few months later, I was at Abbey Road, just in the studio singing Queen songs as I do. And it was just a very bizarre, fun / natural, because it's what I do already, experience.
Mark, I mean, for the Queen fans, I mean, because there is word. I was sort of documentary where that it was touch and go. Where the Queen would have that legacy. They were quite a quirky band in many ways, but that was absolutely blown away when they took part in Live Aid. And I can recall watching it as a teenager, and they take the stage and they literally blow that stadium and the world away. They call it the greatest performance of all time. I mean, when you see a performance like that, what do you make of the band itself?
Well, I think even if you ask Roger and Brian about that day, even they were just dumbfounded by how it went. I don't think they expected it. Freddie's voice was struggling that day apparently, but as soon as he hit the stage, it didn't matter. They got on there with a new sense of passion. It's one of those performances you look back and it's like it's more than the sum of its parts. It's hard to put your finger on why that was such an amazing thing. There were so many. The biggest acts of all time were there that day, and somehow Queen, I guess they had been on a couple years hiatus. They hadn't really toured or performed together much before that day, and I guess it was a bit of a precursor to how much the world was going to miss Freddie. They already missed Queen when Queen stopped touring regularly, and I think, like you said, that they are a quirky band. They never shied away from being weird and at times even campy, and you gotta conclude from that people like artists who aren't afraid to be themselves. And I'm in the music industry, and I've been through the whole thing of you got to write that perfect song for radio, and this is the kind of song that radio listeners want to hear. And after enough years, you got to realize it's just got to come from your soul. You got to believe it, because if you don't, then no one's going to care. And I think Queen cared so much about their music. It was what they did best. And the fact that they had 4 songwriters in the band that each were responsible for at least 1 or 2, international super hits. I think that's the only band in history that has accomplished that. Not even the Beatles had that. So there's a lot of reasons why the world just loves Queen so much.
Yeah, and if you're a Queen fan, listen to this morning, of which there are many across the country. Text us 2101 or pop it up on Twitter at RNZ Sunday. What's your one Queen song? Perhaps what's one that you'd like us to play if we have time to today? And Mark, finally, before I let you go, when you think back to that video you uploaded to YouTube, you singing like Freddie in your less than tidy bedroom, did you ever think that you could end up making a living out of this and touring the world?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I actually, before I uploaded that video, I had a huge moment of self-doubt, and I remember I was sitting on the couch with my wife, with my laptop on my lap, and about to hit send, and I told her, I can't do this. I've got this band that I love being in, and I have a feeling that since people have told me so much how much I sound like Freddie, I have a good chance of winning this, and what if I win this? It's going to throw my life into chaos. And I'm so glad that I took that chance. It was a huge defining moment for me, and it was actually my wife who said, "Mark, you were born for this," and I guess maybe in a way I was, and I'm honored to keep the presence of a legend alive in some ways. It's a really strange and awesome place to be in. Well,
we look forward to this, your version of Freddie in 2 New Zealand concerts called the Ultimate Queen Celebration Touring Down Under. Auckland, August 24th, 2nd Christchurch, August the 26th. But before you go, and just for the fans, Mark, please just belt out one Freddie phrase for us.
Sing it!
You can hear more at the show. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us.
All right, my pleasure, Wallace. Have a good day.